Hi, good people of Earth. Mondion Astral Oracles. Thank you for being here with me and your interest, watching the energy and attention you contribute to the practice, and of course also for the tons of support I've received through the years, having done this for quite some time now. Um, and if you've followed along for some time, you probably also followed me around the planet, and quite magically, the practice has been able to pay for that, right? So um, I've kind of been able to make the money doing this that I needed to pay for the expenses as I moved about the planet. That was nice, and at the same time, it was and it has constantly been sort of a test of my belief, my trust in the process, and in the fact that I was supported in living my life and going through this process, and that this work would sustain me. So there's been like a lot of very interesting, the very close calls, and just being far away on the other side of the planet, and will I make it, or can I afford to rent some other place and stuff, and then all of the sudden money turns up somehow. So I've been very grateful for that. There's been some kind of hilarious things related to it. For instance, just when COVID hit, I was running out of unemployment insurance, and having gone through Kundalini symptoms for quite some while there. I'd actually been through to some different job interviews that had all been very pleasant experiences, but where they could also kind of figure that I probably didn't want the job, I just needed one, so I didn't get them. And then I think like I was almost running out of hours I could claim unemployment insurance for in the system, and then COVID hit, and I just got, they kept extending it. So everybody who was already unemployed just got their benefits extended almost indefinitely while that lasted. So that supported me before I went traveling. And then, like, there's been experience both with losing money and earning money while I've been out traveling, that just seems to have opened these portals all of the sudden. And I'm very very grateful for all of the support, and of course also for you guys wanting to work with me on that, because that's been amazing. And of course I sometimes I still have to remind myself that, of course, the fact that people are willing to pay good money for the work and the practice is, of course, a sign that they feel it's adding tangible value to their lives. Um, and that's beautiful to witness, and also kind of humbling. So what a wonderful experience that is. Another hilarious experience I had was, I just, I went to Italy, and I kind of didn't know where how I would support myself doing that, but it was getting cold outside, and I just had the sense all of a sudden that, okay, it's time. And then the next morning I wake up, and then there's some money I forgot in a vacation fund for the job I had for a stint earlier in the year, and so they will be paid to me at a later date. And so I go to Italy. I go to the town called Monopoly, and I wake up in Monopoly, and the next day, and these money appear in my account. So it's kind of the idea that if you pass go in Monopoly, you get money out of the blue, right? So in that way, it just seems like I have this very weird interaction with awakening, and also with the money in it, where it's just it's an interesting part of the scaffolding, that seems to guide and prod me in different experiences. And so, going far away and in places where I'd hate to run out of money in Mexico or Morocco or the US, or places, but it kind of seems like it has pushed me to those places to trust that, and at the same time it's turned up and sustained me doing that work. It's been very beautiful. which is also very interesting. That then recently, I've just like I haven't really made any money like the last month or so, and that's kind of prodded me into like making some definite decisions about something. And as you can see, of course, I'm in Denmark, and that's like an incredibly affluent place with a very very extensive welfare system, and you can get all the help you want, and like there are jobs aplenty, and those, even like if they're bad jobs, they pay well. So like all is good. In that sense, but again, it's like it's being instrumental in teaching me kind of where do I want to go, and also where do I want to go with this practice. So so it's just it's incredibly interesting. And so I think yeah, it's just the order of things I want to talk about. Partially, that idea about manifesting money and abundance and stuff. That's um, it's very cool. It's also perhaps slightly related to like prosperity gospel Calvinist ideas of like predestination and getting a lot of loot so you can prove God loves you, and all that that stuff. But let's not go there. Of course, like there is literal value in having material abundance and not having to worry about that. But I think the central point in relation to spirituality is always to consider every material circumstance, and that's from the very very literal, the stuff here behind me, um and then to like the quite subtle, so like the energetic circumstances, the emotions you're having, they're all exactly the scaffolding you need at that moment to understand the things you need to guide you into the next step, right and proper step on your journey. I think that's a helpful way to think about it, and at least, and I think that applies to a lot of people. I'm kind of painfully aware that if I have money above a certain level, I also get kind of complacent because I have what I need. I'm not necessarily too far-sighted in that sense. But I think I'm also aware that if I had like it, abundant, if I was if I were a billionaire or something, I'd probably be doing something like going during the war, and that's not running the Luftwaffe, but it's like shooting morphine and collecting precious artifacts in dubious ways, because it's like, what's the incentive to do anything once you've kind of achieved those levels of tangible success, right? So I think that there is probably an element of for a lot of us, like that there is a driving force in the feeling that there is a lack, there is a need to sustain ourselves, there is a need to kind of project and protect ourselves from the future and attain something that's very expressed in the material um, energy of money. And of course, I'm again coming from this place where like there's a lot of social equality and extensive welfare system, and that there aren't any working poor, and like there's basically no homelessness and stuff, like so in that way it's also very easy to observe like the affluence that people then have above that level is something that you kind of feel doesn't take away from anybody or anything else. So in that way, it also becomes like a beautiful manifestation of how far we've evolved from a species, from worrying about where the next meal would come from once we ran out of we'd eaten the most recent catch or kill, or something, right? And to a place where we're surrounded by exquisite objects, and all these tomes of knowledge and woodcrafting and what have you. Like it's just like we live in exquisite spaces with wonderful things, right? And in that sense, there's so much material abundance also expressed around us in something that's different than money. And then, of course, also internationally, working like that. And you probably don't know, but we have our own silly currency in Denmark, which is tied to the euro. But so it's you kind of get that psychology that it is just credits, right? Like it's just like numbers on a screen that kind of varies depending on what system you get, and then sometimes you have to pay fees to get them to change into another type of credit and stuff. But it's very intangible compared to the very like Underworld Pluto like qualities of money, right? That they were related to the underworld and the Lord of Death, of course, also because they were made of metal that you dug up from the underworld. So in that way, that made a lot of sense. And then yes, I'm getting to the end of this talk, but I just wanted to say that I then it's so interesting and also challenging being in a spiritual line of work, and then of course having to also make it sustainable and like monetarily support you. That's been challenging for me in a lot of ways, mentally, and also because there's like stuff I want to say, be able to say no to. Like it's I don't want to get so greedy or avaricious that I feel like I'm compromising myself, and it really is a very organic, tangible, vibrational structure. This entire work and practice and things, so it immediately responds. It seems positively to my vibration in helpful ways, and also in the opposite when I kind of go to it with wrong intentions or have any idea of like, oh, I want to do this because I want to attain something, or let me do videos because this seems like a popular topic more than like something I wish like I'll do. It always seems to teach me that that's a bad idea. So it really, really wants to align with truth. And I jacked up my prices recently, and that was partially because the most of my clients are Americans, and the dollar was higher than the euro all of the sudden. And I had just spent time in America where it's like, okay, $100 actually isn't that much money, and nowadays for what I felt was a valuable service. So I was kind of in a place where I felt, okay, I kind of need to charge more than that. And also, I was in the weird position where I was actually kind of willing to go on doing it for the same amount of money, but um, there was just, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people, right? But I was just looking around at that time and going like, oh, okay, so a lot of people who I would not naming any names, but I would say that I feel like I'm nuts and bolts, like, and you'll get at least as good a challenging or channeling experience getting a session from me as you would from those people who are charging perhaps what was double of what I was then charging. And I felt like, yeah, I just I can't defend that to myself. It was like I was almost signaling that I felt that was an inferior product. So that's just, interesting again, like these value assertions of how do I value something that's intangible and that I, in many ways, would love to offer freely if I could. So that's also, I think I'm kind of trying to switch to a donation model, and that will mean that it will still be the same. Like, if you can, please pay me the same for services. If you can't, then just, consider what you would pay me, and we can probably figure that out. And that's also because, like, for instance, recently I had someone from India reach out who feel like that they really benefit from the practice, and I'm kind of in that situation where I know that like prices are about 10 times as high in Denmark as they are in India. So like what I'm asking is simply, it's a crazy amount of money for that person, and I don't really feel that's fair. And at the same time, like, what do you do, right? So I think, like going with donations and then trying to underscore that if you're in a situation or you can't afford it or something, that you're very, very welcome. And I completely understand that. And I'm probably willing to work for that anyhow. So let's just try and see what let's see what happens with that. So if you feel you could benefit from some work and you can't pay what's listed on the website, then just let's let's talk. So that was something about like money and spirituality. And again, I think I'll go through like some of these more basic interesting I think tensions that often arise between, uh, let's say, the mundane aspects of life, right? Money, sexuality, career, like belonging, all that stuff. And then like spirituality, the eon stuff, the whole awakening, ascension stuff, because as you may have inferred from the title, it is about like trying to bring all these levels together, and to embody more of the wisdom of and love that we are, when we kind of scratch all the surfaces and worries of what may be going on. um so I'm also wishing you some happiness and prosperity out there. And then let's get Lord Mercury, the god Hermes, to talk about money. And of course, if you're wondering why that is, it's because he's the god of travelers, thieves, and tradesmen, right? So he should be the one to talk to. Yes, Hermes speaks. I use this word because it seems to resonate with a slightly deeper level of receptivity within the system of communication, or this entity, this being here, that's making itself available for this communication. But I greet you, human beings, as I bring tidings from on high and descend to these levels, these spaces, to interact with you on a more horizontal level. So, descending from the vertical, I bring to you and facilitate horizontal exchanges. Now, do you understand why this is central to my energy? Why these three T's that our friend just mentioned, the travelers, the thieves, and the tradesmen, they all travel in, they all trade in lateral exchanges. And so notice that there is a give and take in every exchange. This is also why you find that the thieving energy accompanies any type of communication. It is the thief at the door that requires the price of you slipping out, that your attention, as it engages with the outside world, also loses itself, loses its homebound place. So, do you see that the very fact that you feel so troubled often by this energy of trade, this energy of currency, this energy of money, of this system of value, that all of you exist within, all of you listening to this message? It's because it brings you away from home. We could even say that it is a deep reminder that you are already cast out of the deepest or the higher realms of home, those realms that I travel from and that I return to when this message is delivered, that I am speaking to you from now. Those you are already cast out of. And that means that your system, it exists within unsteadiness. It has instability to it. It needs to sustain itself. It is cold. It is hungry. It wants to either relieve itself or it wants to attain something. But it is always in a state of want. And so you can't just stay at home. You always must go out traveling and trading, and at worst even thieving, to get your needs met. So there is a compromise, always. And you hope you can turn this into negotiation with the world. So you hope to have these open communications and interchanges. But you will find that the horizontal, it is rarely as those squares that you then level to conduct your markets. Rather, there is an unevenness to everything in every exchange. And so you find when you are traveling that you are either going uphill or downhill. You find that when you are trading, you are either wanting something more than it is offering itself to you, or you are being offered something that you don't necessarily quite wish to connect with. So that is the entire essential case, that you find there is an unevenness, an unpleasantness to this energy, this money energy that is unsettling. So this is very fundamental to understand, because in this way it's very akin to other, let's call them illusory senses of fulfillment that you can change or you can chase in this life. Because you chase in this unevening sense that the money, the sense of value, is creating in your life. You chase exactly this cessation of need that it represents. So the idea is that the more of these, let's call them unevenness tokens you have, the more even you will feel. But this is never the case, because it's essentially the content, the evenness, the fullness that these empty tokens represent, that you are looking to connect to. And this is the wisdom of King Midas, that if you think it is the gold that itself that is making you happy, and not the feeling of prosperity that it represents that surrounds you, then you will be unable to connect to the even more meaningful things, such as your child or anything that is dear and near to you. So it is similar in that way to, for instance, the illusory feelings of sensation that you get from your drugs or other similar rapid stimuli. That is, you confuse the fullness you experience with the substance, which is in and of itself hollow, and thereby you fail to focus on the emotional content that it has evoked, that was there all along. So this is why when you're trying to manifest value or abundance, money in your life, you are instructed to partially go about appreciating what you already have, and partially envisioning the content of that money already present in your life. That is, the things that the money is worth, the positives, those are present in your life. Because these are essentially the fulfilled requirements of your life. These are the things that you feel your soul is calling out to connect to. And it is this fullness that you seek to cultivate. It is this emotional richness and connectivity you seek to cultivate. So it is, of course, perhaps quite understandable to you that if you're dreaming about having a mountain of cocaine, well, you should probably both get better hobbies. But what you're dreaming about is actually feeling good about yourself and not feeling bad about yourself. But it is often less conspicuous, we could say, that when you're dreaming about having a mountain of money in front of you, it is exactly the same sentiment, that you want to be able to feel good about yourself instead of bad about yourself. So there's always this idea of unevenness or lack in every kind of attainment that stems from this, let's call it outward or empty focus. That is, if you are looking not to connect to the fulfillment, the feeling of the process, but the empty attainment, then the empty attainment will, even when experienced, not provide you with the fulfillment you want to experience. This is often what also happens in your medium of fame, though our friend here is saying that he will consult on this another day. So sticking to this idea of the money, you may find that connecting to it then feeling it, has to do with charging it with positive energy. And that is, it's already charged with a type of pure volatility. So you have this sense of it more as an element, let's call it, of something that can take you somewhere, that can change your state, that can take you from this state where there may be unwanted things to a state where there are fewer unwanted things. And so what you do is that you create energetic bridges between this state that you're feeling now, by taking stock of where you're feeling now, by charging this state you're in now with gratitude and positivity, and then feeling what are the emotional trajectories, what are the pathways, what are the inner rainbows you are walking from this state you are in now to this state you want to be in. And then see, almost just as a side effect, how money turns up and becomes charged with those energies, because then they just simply facilitate the flow of energy in the material world. And this is how you want a successful travel to be. That is, it's simply something where the flow of material energy, often yourself in this case, has moved itself from one place to another without being too distorted. In the transaction, here, the alchemy of the exchange, each person getting something better out of it, too, has been attained by this energetic bridge and in the exchange of the money or the currency. And you will find, even as you steal something, this is again this Promethean secret of the mercurial energy, that you take something from the world, something leaden, invaluable, forgotten, and in claiming that for yourself, it becomes valuable, precious, appreciated. So notice that you came into this world with nothing, and through cleverness, craft, and skill, you take from it everything you need, and you wind up the richer for it. So have fun working with these energetic gateways, these imbalances, these pathways from one state to another, positively charged. See how matter also matters, also is a powerful medium to work in, to reconfigure yourself and the world in. And with that message of wisdom, with the support and love of the gods on high, I, Hermes, I bid you farewell, with blessings of prosperity and happy travels. Farewell. I I I at least understood the mercurial energy even a little better. So I hope that also served you somehow out there, and I hope that you are well. So much love, guys.